Saving money on a cruise doesn't have to be hard. Oftentimes, it's the little choices you make while booking that can add up to some pretty substantial savings. In this video, I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks I use when booking my cruises to maximize savings without compromising on the cruise experiences that are important to my family. Hi, I'm Tiffany from Destination for Vacation. Thanks for joining me. While this video was made with the new cruiser in mind, I'm hoping that even those of you watching who are seasoned cruisers will find at least a few of these tips helpful, and, of course, are willing to share a few of your own. While many of these tips are nowhere near revolutionary, and some are just plain common sense, I'm including them because shopping for a cruise can feel very overwhelming when you're new to cruising. By the end of this video, you should have a pretty good game plan to work with, and you'll be shopping like a pro in no time. Let's get started with money-saving tip number 1. Sailing dates really matter. When cruising, you can save hundreds of dollars just by being a little flexible with your travel dates. I think most people understand that you're going to pay more for a cruise during holidays and when school is not in session, so by all means, avoid those dates whenever possible. And sailing in the shoulder season, which is the month right before people start flocking to a popular destination, as well as the month when operations start to wind down, can save you thousands of dollars. But what some people don't realize is you might save a couple $100s for a cabin just by adjusting your sailing date by 2 or 3 weeks. Here's a quick example. Let's say I've chosen a 9-day Eastern Caribbean itinerary on Celebrity Reflection. I want an inside cabin, which will cost $804 per person for the week of October 9th. So for 2 people, we'll pay a little over $1,600 for that stateroom. But if I move that cruise up by just 2 weeks and instead depart on September 20th, we'll pay $677 per person. It's the same ship, same ports, and the time spent in each port is generally the same. But that cabin now costs $1,354 instead of $1,608, a savings of $254. All for what? Just moving my cruise date up by 19 days. This just goes to show you that you don't have to make major date changes to enjoy some pretty decent savings. So as you're booking, look at 2 or 3 sailings before and after the date you're thinking about to see if there are any substantial price differences. The second thing to keep in mind to save a good chunk of money is, don't assume that discounting for all cabin types is going to be the same when you change dates. It's all about supply and demand. Discounted pricing is determined by unsold inventory. We'll use that same sailing as an example. The inside cabin was 16% cheaper when sailing on September 20th versus October 9th, so it would make sense to change our sailing date to September. But take a look at the ocean view and suite cabins. It would actually cost more to sail on September 20th in those cabin types than if I stuck with my original preferred sailing date. So, in this case, it would not make sense to move that sailing date up if I planned on booking one of those types of cabins instead of an inside cabin. This brings me to savings tip number 3. Don't assume that an inside cabin is always the least expensive choice because, again, basic supply and demand will always rule. Take a look at this June 15th Celebrity Silhouette sailing to Bermuda. Notice anything? Yeah, the balcony cabin is actually cheaper than the inside and ocean view cabins. Why? Because balcony cabins just haven't been selling as well for this sailing date as those other types of cabins. So there's excess inventory that the cruise line needs to get rid of. And this phenomenon isn't as uncommon as some people think. You'll sometimes see suites that are cheaper than balconies and balconies that are cheaper than inside cabins. But if you're interested, you do need to act quickly. You'll generally have about a week or so because once a certain number of balcony cabins are sold and inventory returns to normal levels, pricing will be increased again. So when you're scrolling through prices, don't pass up an itinerary based solely on its inside cabin pricing, which is often what online travel agents will post for a cruise in order to draw you in, because usually it is the cheapest. Click on the itinerary to see if there might be a better deal with a different type of cabin due to unsold inventory. Always look at pricing for the 4 major room types: inside, ocean view, balcony, and suite, so you won't miss out on grabbing a great deal for a more desirable type of cabin. That percentage off? It's not real, so don't go by it. Instead, look at the actual prices when comparing, not the advertised percentage savings. Here's a case in point. Do you really think that an inside cabin on Norwegian's Pride of America, a 4-star ship, costs $20,000 for a 7-night cruise in Hawaii? Yeah, no. Shopping culture these days revolves around persistent, deep discounting. Retailers are constantly trying to one-up each other by increasing discounts. Blame it on us, the consumers. When people see a high percentage off, they think they're getting a great deal, when in reality, companies are simply inflating the base price, or in this case, brochure price, to a point where they can show a massive discount, but they're still getting people to pay the price the company wants to charge. This is nothing new. It's been prevalent since the 1980s. So here we see Norwegian's cruises as being up to 93% off, which certainly gets our attention. But do you really believe that Norwegian charges these brochure prices for an inside cabin? Ever? And this issue isn't limited to just Norwegian. I've received emails from other cruise lines advertising their cruises are at a certain percentage off that's higher than last week, only to realize that they had just inflated the base fare brochure price in the process, and you'd actually be paying more. Just remember to always focus on the price itself, not the advertised percentage off. To illustrate this, if we were only focusing on pricing according to percentage off for a 10-day sailing land package, our eyes would probably be drawn to the April 2nd sailing, which is showing an 81% discount with an inside cabin price of $3,968 per person. So based on double occupancy, that cabin's going to cost us $7,936. And we probably would have skipped over the March 19th sailing because it's showing a smaller discount, 78%, compared to that 81% for April 2nd. Yet the actual price per person is $3,551. So that same inside cabin, even though the percentage off is showing us 3% less, would actually be cheaper per person and cost us a little over $7,100. Which, compared to that April 2nd sailing, would actually save us $834 for the cabin. All that really happened was that the brochure price was adjusted to show a greater percentage discount. I know that date might be a little bit more popular and that's why the brochure price went up, but with sailings that close to each other, that's probably not the case. All in all, a lot of times those percentages are misleading. So don't fall for this trap. Savings tip number 5. Take advantage of last-minute deals around the 90-day mark. Most cruise lines allow passengers to cancel their bookings anytime about 100 days out from a sailing without losing deposits or any money that was paid towards the cruise. This allows them to hold their preferred stateroom on a sailing they're interested in, even when they're not all that confident that they're actually going to take the cruise. It also locks in savings in the event that the sailing becomes very popular, which will result in increased prices. Essentially, there's nothing to lose. Then, when that 100-day deadline approaches, some people cancel because the dates just won't work out or circumstances have changed since they originally reserved it. So, around 90 days out from a sailing, the cruise lines will typically deeply discount unsold cabins, especially when they still have a lot of unsold inventory. A cabin that once sold for about $100 per person per night might now sell for less than $60 per person per night, or even less than that. In this video, I highlighted a deal where you could sail for less than $33 per person per night in a balcony cabin. Of course, by the time you're watching this, that deal is long gone. But the point I'm trying to make here is that sometimes you can find fantastic deals if you're willing to wait until about 90 days out to book your cruise. Of course, it's not a sure thing. If demand is high, you're also taking the chance that the itinerary will sell out. Cabin selection by that point will also be very limited, so you may not be able to book that balcony cabin, or you might be restricted to cabins on less popular decks. But sometimes you might find that the savings will more than compensate for those inconveniences. And of course, sometimes the price doesn't go down 90 days out from a sailing. Instead, it dramatically increases because there are just a few cabins left. But that's fairly rare. In many cases, you can find some pretty fantastic deals simply by waiting and booking in that 90-day window. I saved $1,800 on a balcony cabin for one of my family's Panama Canal cruises simply by waiting to book 2 months out from the cruise date. One easy way to do this is to find an online website that publishes the list of pricing for cruises that are within the 90-day window. I typically use the 90-day ticker at Vacations to Go's website only because I found it to be the most user-friendly to quickly assess pricing across the various cruise lines. Just know that it doesn't include every sailing for every cruise line, so if you have your eye on a particular itinerary or date, you may need to manually enter that information or work with your preferred travel agent to monitor updated pricing. But I find the site helps me to narrow down my choices and find an itinerary that I'd like to pursue. And that brings me to cruise savings tip number 6. Shop around and get at least 3 price quotes. Don't assume that a cruise costs the same price, regardless of who you book it through, because it doesn't. Many cruisers miss out on substantial savings simply because they don't realize just how much the same cabin on the same ship sailing the same exact date can vary in price according to who's selling it. While doing some pricing research for my December 2024 sailing on Norwegian Joy, I found a $600 savings simply by booking that particular stateroom through Vacations to Go instead of booking directly through the cruise line. I won't get into the specifics here only because this video on Destination for Vacations channel provides an in-depth look at the simple process I followed to save that $600. I'll post the link to that video in the notes below. But essentially, once you have an idea of the particular itinerary and ship you're interested in, it's always a good idea to see what the pricing is across different companies. Look into online travel agency pricing. I've been able to get some great cruise deals in the past through Costco Travel. Some travelers swear by Cheap Cruises, Priceline, and Travelocity. I've never booked a cruise through them, so I can't advise in that area. But even when you don't want to actually book the cruise through an online travel agency or a large agency like Vacations to Go, it never hurts to check into their pricing because more often than not, your travel agent or the cruise line itself will be willing to match the offer. Ultimately, there are plenty of options to book your cruise, and when you're spending this much money, why not do a little legwork to try to get the best price? And this might even result in some additional little perks being thrown in to sweeten the deal to get your business. So don't just go with the first price you're quoted. Try to price out the cruise 3 different ways. It'll probably take you less than a half hour to save a few $100s, if not more. Moving right along to savings tip number 7. Choose a ship with fewer onboard amenities. There are 2 reasons for this. These days, there sure are a lot of bells and whistles on cruise ships. That's because the cruise lines would much rather you spend your hard-earned cash staying on board their ships instead of taking it off the ship to spend at port. Little things add up to big profits. That go-kart track for the kids at $15 a pop. The thermal spa pass for $200. The wine tasting experience for $30. It's all going to add up, and you're going to feel tempted to be part of the action because you don't want to miss out on some of the more distinctive features of your cruise ship. So if you're on a strict budget, choose a ship that removes those temptations. But even when a ship's amenities are part of the cruise fare you paid, you're probably still paying more for the base price of the cruise. And depending on the destinations you're sailing to, you may not be spending as much time taking advantage of those amenities, so that higher base fare you paid will go to waste. Instead, pocket that extra money and use it towards your shore excursions or even your next cruise. This was a lesson I learned the hard way. My family's first ever cruise was on Disney Wonder in Alaska, and for us, it was kind of a waste of money, only because Given what we had paid for that cruise, we felt torn between spending time in port and enjoying the ship's amenities. Some days, we didn't maximize our time on land because we didn't want to miss out on some of the events that were scheduled on board the ship. Then there were days where we were off the ship for a full day and we felt like we weren't getting the full value of the shipboard experience that we had paid very handsomely for. It was kind of a no-win situation. When we came back to the ship early, I felt guilty because we should have been taking full advantage of the time we had available on land to see everything we could in that particular port. When we were on land, I felt like we weren't getting the full Disney experience because we were missing out on enjoying everything the ship had to offer. The ship itself was lovely, and I would gladly sail on her again. But I've learned that my family would get the best value for a Disney cruise when choosing a different sailing itinerary, one that offers more days at sea to enjoy the ship, or one with ports that we're just not as interested in visiting. Essentially, we'd be taking the cruise for the ship itself, not the destinations we'd be sailing to. So it's important to decide if you're taking the cruise for the destinations or for the onboard experience. For most of us, it's going to be a combination of both. But when there's more of a priority in getting off the ship to explore, like there is in Alaska, then consider choosing a ship or a cruise line that offers fewer onboard amenities so you don't feel like you're missing out anytime you leave the ship to explore each destination. Not only will this remove the draw of returning to the ship early, but ships with fewer amenities can end up saving you hundreds of dollars. Savings tip number 8. Choosing an older ship in the cruise line's fleet has the potential to save you hundreds of dollars. Cruise lines regularly refurbish their ships, so while one ship might be 10 years older than another, it will offer many of the same restaurants and activities that the cruise line is known for. In fact, it's only limited by the size of the ship. The line is going to try to pack in as many amenities into the ship as its physical space will allow. Older ships can be a great value, and I found that their staterooms are often larger in size than many of the newer ships in a cruise line's fleet, which is an added bonus. Take a look at this pricing. I can book an Eastern Caribbean itinerary that sails from Fort Lauderdale in a balcony cabin on Celebrity Beyond, which was built in 2022, and pay $1,128 per person. This ship is in the Edge class, which offers the infinite balcony. These types of staterooms are 131 square feet with a balcony size of about 45 square feet. Or I can book a sailing that leaves 3 days earlier on Celebrity Reflection, which is 10 years older, built in 2012. My balcony cabin size would be 192 square feet, and the balcony would be 54 square feet. Not only am I getting a much larger cabin, but I'm paying $891 per person, a total savings of $474 for that cabin. Oh, and there's one more thing I've kind of withheld from you. The balcony price for the newer ship, Celebrity Beyond, is for a 7-night sailing, but I'm paying $891 for a 10-night sailing on Celebrity Reflection. And remember, that's per person based on double occupancy. So when you do the math, that balcony cabin on Celebrity Beyond is going to cost $322 per night, whereas the larger balcony cabin on Celebrity Reflection will cost less. Bigger cabin, more sea and port days at half the price. I know which ship I'd go on in this scenario, and with the money saved, I might even book another cruise. Moving on to savings tip number 9. This one's huge, so repeat after me. Do not pay more than the deposit until that required payment is due. And whatever you do, do not pay off your cruise prior to the month it's due. Just stick to the schedule of minimum payments. Here's why. When you pay off your cruise, you lose any leverage you have when it comes to pricing adjustments. Remember that unsold inventory I talked about earlier and how it can lead to cheaper cabin rates? If you play your cards right, you can still benefit from that even after booking your cruise, which a lot of people don't seem to realize. I'm a person who likes to pay off what I owe as early as possible. I just don't like that cloud hanging over my head. But when it comes to cruising, paying your full fare before it's due can prove to be a costly mistake. Because at a certain point, many cruise lines aren't going to refund you the difference in cabin prices. At most, they might upgrade you to a higher cabin category within a type of cabin. In other words, you're very unlikely to be upgraded from an ocean view cabin to a Vista suite. You'll probably just get upgraded to a more spacious ocean view cabin. And that upgrade may end up being on a less preferable deck than the cabin you originally booked, or in a noisier location, such as next to the cruise service stairwell. What I'm getting at is, you may not think that upgrade is really an upgrade compared to the location you originally booked, and you'd much rather have the money. When I booked my family's first cruise to Antarctica, the total fare came out to $14,647. The cruise was booked in April for a sailing the following January. I paid only the deposit, which was $1,200. Come August, I noticed that the rates had substantially decreased, and now the cruise was listed at $9,092. Same cruise, same date, same cabin type. So of course, I called in and requested a price adjustment. If need be, I was more than willing to cancel the original booking and lose that $1,200 deposit, because even with that, I'd still be saving over $4,300. But I didn't have to do that. So just with that one simple call, I saved over $5,500. The cruise line let us keep the same cabin and just adjusted the fare, and I was very happy. But then the discussion turned to yet another discount that I was entitled to that hadn't been applied to my original fare. I'm going to save that explanation for a little later on so I don't get too derailed on this savings point. Had I paid for the fare in full, I wouldn't have had the same negotiation power, and a cabin upgrade for us wouldn't have been worth that $5,500. I'd much rather spend that money on a future cruise. So just wait to make your payments until they're actually due. Instead, hold that money in a savings account and let it earn a little interest for you in the meantime. That way, it's out of your main account so you're not tempted to spend it on something else, but it will allow you to take advantage of most price drops as your sailing date approaches. Which leads me to savings tip number 10, and that is, don't drop the ball after initially booking your cruise. Make a point of regularly checking in on pricing. If I hadn't done so, I would have spent thousands more than I needed to on that Antarctica cruise. And it's easy. You don't have to call in, just plug in the sailing date on any online platform to see if pricing for your cabin type has decreased. You don't need an exact price, you're just going for a ballpark range. Once a month's probably fine, unless cruise lines are running major sales like the week after Black Friday or during the wave season of January through March. Just make a little note on your calendar each month to do a quick checkup. Remember, even a $50 price drop per person can help pay for some of those onboard gratuities, or it can go towards your parking at the cruise or airport terminal. So it's worth calling in to inquire about. Just make sure to call the same day you find the discounted fare. If the savings are substantial, you may need to cancel your current booking, losing that deposit you paid, and then rebook the cruise under the new pricing. But most of the time, the representatives will probably use your current booking and just apply a price match. Savings tip number 11. If you're a light drinker, consider foregoing that so-called free drink package because, as the common saying goes, nothing in life is free. I've discussed this in previous videos, but I'm going to do so here again because it's a great way to save some money even when you like to have a few drinks on board the ship. Cruise lines typically offer packages with titles like Have It All or More at Sea that they offer as a perk when purchasing your cruise fare. The package might include drinks, Wi-Fi, discounted shore excursions, special desserts, and 1 or 2 nights at specialty dining restaurants. What many new cruisers don't realize is you still have to pay taxes for the food and beverages within those packages. The taxes on the food usually comes out at about, say, $10 per person per meal, which many people consider worthwhile paying in order to indulge in the specialty dining experiences. But while the taxes on dining are pretty minimal, the taxes on the packages that include alcohol can be pretty hefty, nearing $500 for a 7-night cruise. So if you're a light drinker, you're usually much better off foregoing the drinks package completely and just paying a la carte for the drinks you plan on having on board the ship. But sometimes you will find a particularly good deal. The cruise line or the travel agent you're booking the cruise through will pay for the taxes on the package, so it truly does cost you nothing. That's getting rarer these days, but once in a while you'll still see this pop up as a perk. When that's the case, by all means, take advantage of it. Otherwise, price your cruise with and without the drink package, and then determine how many drinks you'd have to order just to break even after paying those taxes. A lot of cruisers end up realizing it's just not worth it, and it's better to save the money and just purchase a drink on board whenever the whim hits. Savings tip number 12. Make sure you're getting all the discounts you're entitled to. Good travel agents will check into every possible way to save you money, but it never hurts to double check. Common ones that are typically applied automatically within the booking system include a special resident rate based on the state you live in, or a senior discount for passengers 55 and older. But there are others as well, and they can be combined with other discounts. Some cruise lines, like Norwegian, offer some attractive discounts to teachers. Cruise lines also offer discounts to veterans and first responders. MSC offers discounts to healthcare workers. So, if any of these apply to you, make sure to point them out to the representative who's booking your cruise because it's somewhat easy to overlook them. Tip number 13 sounds a little counterintuitive, but it has the potential to save you some major money on your next cruise. Play at the casino, even if it's only minimally. But here's the key. Make sure to put your room card in any and every slot you're playing on, and be sure to register it when playing the table games. Here's why. As you play, you accumulate points. And those points add up to onboard credits, cruise fare discounts, and even, for some, free cruises. And trust me, you don't have to be a high roller to receive them. 3 weeks ago, I took a cruise on Discovery Princess. I'll post a video of that ship tour pretty soon on this channel. I was traveling with a dear friend. Over that week, she spent a total of about $600 in the casino. But over that time, she built enough in points through a winning and losing cycle to receive a certificate for a free cruise cabin worth up to $3,000. But while that was great for her, that's not why I bring up the casino. I've never gambled enough in the casino to receive a free cabin. I'm a little stingy when it comes to gambling. But I'm going to bring up an example of how spending a little money in the casino can save you some serious cash on a future cruise. Before I do so, never spend more than you can afford or feel comfortable in losing because, let's face it, that's usually what happens. And if you have a gambling addiction, then do not step foot in the casino because it's going to cost you dearly. Just skip over this tip completely. It's not worth it. But for the rest of you, remember that Antarctica cruise I was talking about earlier? Well, when I had called in to see if the cruise line would match the current advertised fare, I was very pleased to see that our mini suites cabin price lowered from nearly $15,000 to about $9,100. But then the representative noticed that a special casino rate code hadn't been applied to my original booking as it should have been when I called the cruise line to book that particular cruise. And that would save us even more money. Let me tell you how I qualified for that code. During the previous cruise we had taken with the cruise line, I had put $100 in a machine, and after about an hour of playing, ended up winning a little over $600. That doesn't usually happen to me, especially when I limit my spending to about $2 a spin. I played out that $600 here and there for the rest of the 2-week cruise. I'd win a little and then I'd lose it, but I never put any more of my own money in. But on the other hand, I never took any of that money that I'd won home with me. Basically, after the trip, I was down my original $100, and I was absolutely fine with that. But because there weren't a lot of gamblers in the casino on that particular trip, my guess is that I qualified a little higher than I normally would have for a future discounted cruise fare. And that discount? Oh, a mere $1,600. So thanks to that $100 I threw in the slot and the $600 winnings that I proceeded to lose, I saved an additional $1,580 on our Antarctica cruise, bringing our total fare down to $7,512. Not bad at all for a 16-day cruise and a mini suite with 3 passengers. So when you're booking a cruise and you've played in the cruise line's casino on any of your prior cruises, even if it was just a minimal amount, It's not going to hurt to call the cruise line's 800 number and ask to be connected to the casino department to see if you qualify for a casino rate. Even if it's a $50 discount per person, again, that's $100. Nothing to sneeze at. Tip number 14. Leave from a less flashy or popular port. While this one admittedly is not a sure thing, it is worth mentioning, especially when so many Caribbean cruise itineraries are pretty much the same. Let's say I have my heart set on a Western Caribbean sailing on a Royal Caribbean ship in a balcony cabin. Florida often comes to mind when thinking about where you might sail out of. But New Orleans and Galveston are two options that might end up saving you a little money. Let's look at 2 7-night cruises with Royal Caribbean that leave within 1 day of each other. For this comparison, I chose pricing directly from Royal Caribbean's website instead of Vacations to Go, only to make sure that both balconies were ocean view balconies. If you didn't already know, Harmony of the Seas offers 2 types of balconies, a less expensive option that overlooks Central Park in the interior of the ship, which is nowhere near the same experience as having an ocean view balcony, which is the other, more expensive option. Grandeur of the Seas only offers ocean view balconies, so to make sure I was comparing the ocean view balconies for both ships, this pricing was retrieved from Royal Caribbean's website. I can sail on Grandeur of the Seas, which is an older 4.5-star ship, and pay $2,661 per person for a balcony cabin. So a total of $5,322 for 2 people. Or I can book an ocean view balcony cabin on Harmony of the Seas, a 5-star ship sailing out of Galveston, Texas, and pay $1,741 per person for a total of $3,481. That's almost a $2,000 difference. Now, there is one more major difference. Harmony's itinerary does not include a port stop in Belize, like Grandeur of the Seas does, which will certainly contribute to some of that price increase. But almost $2,000 worth? Probably not. Now, it's important to remember to factor in the cost of airfare if you don't live within driving distance of a port. Depending on where you live, you might pay a higher cruise fare leaving out of Miami or Tampa, but your airfare is cheaper than a ticket to Galveston might be. So that makes up for the price difference. So again, take this savings tip with a grain of salt because it's not always going to produce savings, but it could end up saving you hundreds of dollars when it does work. Savings tip number 15. Always look to see which booking company is offering perks and factor in their value when you're comparing prices. You could have company number 1 offering a cruise fare that's $100 cheaper than company number 2. Yet company number 2 is offering free gratuities for 2, an onboard cabin credit of $100, and 2 specialty dinners for 2 people. While company number 2 looked to be more expensive based on the fare price, you would actually end up saving $556 by booking through company number 2. So while the fare price is important, sometimes true savings might take just a little bit of math in order to spot them. And when all else is the same, it never hurts to ask the agent if they have the ability to throw in an extra perk or 2 to win your business. Savings tip number 16. Factor in credit card rebates. This one specifically applies to Costco Travel. I've booked many a cruise through Costco Travel because they had a great fare, provided perks, and offered a Costco card with a preloaded amount at the end of the cruise. I booked our 2-week cruise in Norway through Costco Travel because at the time they offered the best price, paid completely for the drink and specialty dining package, including the taxes, and I received a Costco card after the sailing. Now, this was shortly after cruising resumed after the pandemic, so these perks were very unique to the time. But there's something I should have done to save even a little more money, and that is I should have opened up a Costco credit card and used it to charge that cruise, because when you use their Visa to book travel through their website, you'll get a 3% cashback reward just using their basic Visa that has no annual fee. So let's say you wanted to book that Royal Caribbean cruise on Grandeur of the Seas through Costco Travel because they offer the best price. Well, by charging that trip to your Costco Visa, You get a rebate of $160 on top of everything else. The only catch, if you want to call it that, is that Costco issues those cash rebates just once a year, around February, I believe. So you might be waiting just a little bit. But given that, most credit card companies will only offer a 1% cashback reward on a cruise. That 3% can be a very good bargain. Tip number 17. If the offer's right, consider buying future cruise credits when you're on board your current sailing. During my first sailing with Norwegian, the line was offering a buy one, get one free special. Buy one cruise credit for $250 and they would give you another cruise credit. So I bought 4 cruise credits for $1,000 and received a total of $2,000 in credits. You are limited in the number of credits that you can apply towards a cruise at one time. For Norwegian, you can typically use 2 for a cruise with a sailing date that's at least 6 months away, so $500 off. If I wanted to purchase a last-minute cruise, I can only apply 1 cruise credit. Theoretically, you're supposed to use all your cruise credits within a 3-year period, but I'm still working off of mine, and I purchased them prior to the pandemic. Keep in mind that this tip is only going to save you money if you like the cruise line and want to travel with them again. And every cruise line offers something a little different. It's not always going to be buy one, get one, even for Norwegian. As demand for cruising increases, companies typically offer less in incentives. And remember that while you can use more credits at a time, 6 months out, you may end up saving more money on a cruise within that 90-day window, even though you can only use one of the credits. The final disadvantage is this might prevent you from trying out other cruise lines until you've used up all your cruise credits, which is exactly what those cruise lines are trying to do. Keep your business with them. One more tip to go, but before I get there, I have a favor to ask. If you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up, as this really helps to increase visibility for videos of small channels like mine. You might even consider hitting that notification bell so you're the first to know when another cost savings video is released. Thanks for your consideration. Last tip, when it comes to travel, no amount of savings is worth more than having peace of mind. So if you feel more comfortable booking travel through your local agent, there's no reason not to continue to do so, because when you're worried about your travel arrangements, it pretty much chips away at any excitement you'll have about your upcoming trip. But since you've watched this video, it certainly wouldn't hurt to bring up some of these tips with your travel agent to see if he or she can squeeze out a few extra savings for you. Also, if you have any doubts about a particular cruise line or ship, then maybe it's just not time for you to try it out. Sometimes the tried and true are worth the extra money you'll pay for them because that familiarity brings you comfort and peace of mind, and there's certainly great value in that. Okay, seasoned cruisers, did I forget something? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe you can teach me a thing or two and save me some additional money on my next cruise. Thanks for watching. I hope you can join me again in one of these videos. Until then, here's hoping that your next adventure is just around the corner.